The alarm bells rang through the Earth Defense Force headquarters at exactly 14:30 hours on a Tuesday afternoon. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his third cup of coffee when the red lights started flashing. He set down his mug and rushed to the command center where dozens of officers were staring at their screens with wide eyes. "What do we have?" Jake asked as he approached Lieutenant Amy Carter at the main console. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from deep space. It's not from any of our satellites or ships," Amy replied, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. "The signal is coming from outside our solar system, and Jake, it's directed specifically at Earth." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Humanity had been searching for signs of alien life for centuries, but they had never expected aliens to contact them first. "Put it on the main screen," he ordered. The image that appeared was unlike anything they had ever seen. A tall, thin creature with blue-gray skin and 4 arms stood in what looked like a command room, filled with strange technology. When it spoke, the words came through in perfect English, though Jake could tell it was being translated by some kind of machine. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. I am Ambassador Zexthar of the Galactic Federation. We have been observing your species for some time now, and we have decided that you are ready for limited contact." Jake looked around the room. Every person was completely silent, hanging on every word the alien spoke. "Your species shows promise, but you are still very young compared to the other members of our Federation. You fight wars over simple resources, and your technology is basic at best. However, we believe you can learn to be useful members of our galactic community." Amy leaned over to Jake and whispered, "Did he just call us primitive?" The alien continued speaking. "We are offering your species a choice. You may join the Galactic Federation as a protected species. This means you will have access to some of our knowledge and technology, but you must follow strict rules. You cannot expand beyond your current solar system without permission. You cannot develop certain weapons, and you must accept guidance from more advanced species." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his face calm. The alien was talking to them like they were children who needed babysitters. "If you choose not to accept our offer, you will remain isolated. No Federation member will contact you again, and you will be left to develop on your own. You have 7 days to decide. We will return for your answer." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. President Nathan Brooks arrived at the headquarters 2 hours later, along with his top advisors. Dr. Lisa Hayes, the government's chief scientist, was already analyzing every frame of the alien transmission. "What did you find?" President Brooks asked as he entered the conference room where Jake and his team were waiting. "The alien technology is impressive, but not impossible to understand," Dr. Hayes said, pulling up images on the wall screen. "Their ship design suggests they have faster than light travel, and their weapons appear to be energy-based. But from what I can see, their approach to engineering is very different from ours." "Different how?" Amy asked. "They seem to focus on one area of technology at a time. Their ships are fast, but the hull design is simple. Their weapons are powerful, but they don't appear to have much flexibility. It's like each alien species has one specialty, and they don't mix their technologies together." Commander Rick Johnson, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "That could be a weakness. Humans are good at combining different ideas to create something new." President Brooks nodded slowly. "What do we know about this Galactic Federation?" Jake pulled up his notes. From what the alien said, there are multiple species involved. "They've been watching us, which means they have some kind of surveillance technology we can't detect. They also seem to have a hierarchy where some species are considered more advanced than others. And they want to put us at the bottom of that hierarchy," Amy added. Dr. Hayes leaned forward. "Mr. President, I recommend we accept their offer, but not for the reasons they think. If we join this federation, we can learn about their technology, their weaknesses, and their other members. We can smile and nod while we figure out how to level the playing field." "You're talking about spying on aliens," President Brooks said. "I'm talking about survival," Dr. Hayes replied. "They just told us that we're primitive and need their guidance, but they also gave us a choice, which suggests they're not planning to invade us right now. That gives us time." Rick Johnson stood up. "I have an idea. What if we create a secret program? Officially, we'll be the good little junior species they want us to be. But behind the scenes, we'll be studying everything we can get our hands on." Jake liked where this was going. "We'll need people in place who can gather intelligence without raising suspicion. Diplomatic missions, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, all of them would be cover for information gathering." Amy pulled up a star chart. If there really is a galactic federation out there, then we're not just dealing with one alien species. We need to learn about all of them, their strengths, their weaknesses, how they interact with each other. President Brooks was quiet for several minutes, thinking through all the implications. Finally, he spoke. We'll accept their offer. But Dr. Hayes, I want you to start working on something else. I want you to figure out how to take their technology and make it better. Sir? Dr. Hayes asked. These aliens think we're primitive. Maybe right now we are, but humans have one advantage they don't seem to understand. We adapt, we improve. We take an idea and make it into something the original creator never imagined. Jake felt a smile forming on his face. You want us to out-innovate them. I want us to be ready, President Brooks said. Because I have a feeling that being a protected species won't stay comfortable for very long. When that day comes, I want humanity to have options. Dr. Hayes nodded. I'll start working on it immediately, but I'll need resources and I'll need to work in secret. You'll have whatever you need, the president promised. 7 days later, when Ambassador Zexthar returned for Earth's answer, Captain Jake Morrison delivered humanity's response with a polite smile. The people of Earth are honored to join the Galactic Federation. We look forward to learning from our more experienced neighbors. What the alien didn't know was that Jake was already planning humanity's first intelligence mission. In his pocket was a list of questions that Dr. Hayes wanted answered about alien technology. Amy Carter had prepared fake cultural research projects that would let them visit different alien worlds. And Rick Johnson was designing secret facilities where they could study whatever alien technology they managed to acquire. As Jake watched the alien ship disappear into hyperspace, he wondered if Ambassador Zexthar had any idea what he had just set in motion. Probably not. After all, humans were just a primitive species that needed protection and guidance. That assumption would prove to be the aliens' first mistake. It would not be their last. 3 months after joining the Galactic Federation, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship as it approached the alien station called Nexus Prime. The massive structure floated in space like a metal city, with ships from dozens of different species coming and going in carefully controlled patterns. First time seeing the real galaxy, Captain? Asked Lieutenant Amy Carter, who was now his intelligence officer. Her official job was cultural liaison, but her real work involved memorizing every detail of alien technology they encountered. It's bigger than I expected, Jake admitted. Through the view screen, he could see ships that looked nothing like human designs. Some were long and sleek, others were round and bulky, and a few seemed to be made of crystal that glowed with internal light. Communications Officer Kate Thompson looked up from her station. We're being hailed by station control. They're assigning us a docking bay and a diplomatic escort. An escort or a babysitter? Amy asked quietly. Both probably, Jake replied. Remember everyone, we're here to learn. Keep your eyes open and your mouth shut unless you're asking innocent questions. The human delegation was met at the airlock by a creature that looked like a walking tree with too many arms. It introduced itself as Botanical Advisor Crindal, and its job was to help the new human members understand Federation protocols. Your species is very young, Crindal explained as it led them through corridors filled with aliens of every shape and size. Most members of the Federation have been spacefaring for thousands of your years. We understand that you need time to adjust to civilized behavior? Jake bit back his first response and instead smiled politely. We're grateful for the Federation's patience with us. They were taken to a meeting room where representatives from several alien species were waiting. Each one looked completely different from the others. Dr. Lisa Hayes had been right about specialization. As the introductions went around the table, Jake started to see the pattern. The Althari were master geneticists who could modify living creatures in ways that seemed like magic. The Kryn controlled energy so perfectly that they could create solid objects from pure power. The Zephyrians had built computers that could predict the future based on quantum calculations. Each species was incredibly advanced in their particular area. But Jake noticed something interesting. None of them seemed to understand how the others did what they did. When the Althari representative mentioned their latest biological innovations, the Kryn delegate looked confused. When the Zephyrians explained their quantum prediction systems, the other aliens just nodded politely without really comprehending. It was like each species had developed their own separate branch of superscience. But they hadn't learned to combine their knowledge. Engineer Ben Parker, who was posing as a maintenance technician, was given a tour of the station's technical areas. When he returned to their quarters that evening, he had disturbing news. "Captain, I think we have a problem," Ben said as soon as the door closed behind him. Amy immediately activated the signal jammer she had built into her tablet computer. "What kind of problem?" Jake asked. "I found records in their system about other species that joined the Federation as junior members. 17 different species over the past 1,000 years. Want to guess how many of them are still around?" Kate felt her stomach drop. "How many?" "0, Ben said. "Every single one of them disappeared from the galactic records within 50 to 100 years after joining." Amy sat down heavily. "Disappeared how?" "That's the scary part. According to the official records, they all chose to isolate themselves and cut off contact with the Federation. But I managed to access some older files that tell a different story." Ben pulled up a holographic display showing star charts. "These were the home systems of the disappeared species. Look at them now." The charts showed empty space where planets should have been. "They're gone," Jake said quietly. "Completely gone. The Federation has a pattern," Ben continued. "They invite a promising species to join as junior members. They study them for decades, learning everything about their biology, psychology, and technology. Then when the species starts asking too many questions or becomes too independent, they eliminate them." Kate was staring at the star charts. "Why would they do that?" "Think about it," Amy said. 17 species, all with different specializations, all with unique technologies. What if the Federation didn't just study them? What if they stole everything useful and then destroyed the evidence? Jake felt cold despite the warm air in their quarters. "We need to get this information back to Earth immediately." "Already done," Ben said. "I sent an encrypted message hidden in our routine status report. Dr. Hayes should have it by now." Jake's communicator beeped with an incoming message. When he opened it, he saw a priority signal from home. "Speak of the devil. Dr. Hayes wants to talk to us." The secure communication link took several minutes to establish, but eventually Dr. Hayes's face appeared on their screen. She looked tired and worried. "Jake, I got Ben's report. We've been analyzing it along with our own observations of Federation technology. I think we've figured out what's really going on." "Tell us," Jake said. "The Federation isn't a cooperative alliance. It's a harvesting operation. Each member species has one area of expertise that they've developed over thousands of years. But instead of sharing knowledge freely, they maintain strict boundaries. The Althari don't teach genetics to the Kryn. The Zephyrians keep their quantum technology secret from everyone else." Amy leaned forward. "But they make exceptions for junior species." "Exactly. The junior species get limited access to multiple technologies because they're supposed to be learning and adapting, but what they're really doing is serving as test subjects. The Federation studies how different species integrate various technologies, then takes the best results and eliminates the species that develop them." Kate shook her head. "That's horrible. But why haven't the other member species figured this out?" "Because they're not looking," Dr. Hayes replied. "Each species is so focused on their own specialty that they don't pay attention to galactic politics. As long as their own territory is safe and their research continues, they don't care what happens to junior species." Jake stood up and started pacing. "So we're next on the list. The question is, how long do we have? Based on the pattern, probably 50 to 75 years before they decide we're too dangerous to keep around." "But Jake, there's something else. President Brooks has authorized a new project. We're not just going to study their technology anymore. We're going to surpass it." Ben looked interested. "How?" "By doing what no Federation species has ever done. We're going to combine all their technologies into something completely new. The Althari genetics, Kryn energy control, Zephyrian quantum computing, all of it. We're going to take their own specializations and create hybrid technologies they can't even imagine." Amy was smiling now. "And we're going to do it in secret." "More than secret," Dr. Hayes said. "We're going to establish hidden colonies outside Federation space, places where we can develop our real military capabilities without anyone watching. As far as the Federation knows, we'll remain the obedient junior species they expect us to be." Jake felt a plan forming in his mind. "We need to buy time. The longer they think we're harmless, the more time we have to prepare." "Agreed. Your mission is to continue gathering intelligence while appearing completely cooperative. Learn everything you can about their weaknesses, their political structures, and their military capabilities." Kate raised her hand. What about the other Federation species? Are they all complicit in this genocide? We don't think so, Dr. Hayes replied. Most of them probably have no idea what's happening to junior species. They're focused on their own research and assume the Federation leadership is handling politics. That isolation might be something we can use later. You're talking about turning them against each other, Ben realized. I'm talking about survival, Dr. Hayes said firmly. 17 species have already been erased from the galaxy because they trusted the Federation. Humanity is not going to be number 18. After the communication ended, Jake and his team sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Amy spoke up. So we're going to pretend to be happy junior members while secretly preparing to fight the entire Galactic Federation. That's about the size of it, Jake confirmed. Kate laughed, but there was no humor in it. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds impossible. Good thing humans specialize in impossible, Ben said. Jake looked at his team and felt pride mixed with determination. The Federation thought they had found another species to exploit and eventually destroy. Instead, they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity time to prepare. 8 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Federation, and Captain Jake Morrison had become one of the most trusted human ambassadors in alien eyes. He sat in the Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime, listening to the heated debate between Federation members with the patience of someone who had heard it all before. The argument was about territorial expansion rights, with the Kryn demanding exclusive mining access to a newly discovered star system. Jake appeared to be taking notes on his tablet, but he was actually updating Earth's intelligence files on Kryn military capabilities. The human representative seems unusually quiet today, observed Supreme Commander Vraktos of the Vorthak Empire. The massive reptilian alien was twice Jake's height and covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb light. Perhaps our junior species has nothing to contribute to this discussion. Jake looked up with a polite smile. I'm still learning from my more experienced colleagues, Commander. Humanity values the wisdom of our elders in the Federation. Several aliens made approving sounds at Jake's humble response. They had come to see humans as the perfect junior species, eager to please, grateful for guidance, and never causing trouble. If only they knew what was really happening behind the scenes. Amy Carter, now promoted to major and serving as cultural attaché, was currently on the Zephyrian homeworld studying their quantum computers. Her official reports described human fascination with alien mathematics. Her real work involved mapping every detail of Zephyrian technology for the secret research stations that humanity had established in hidden systems. Commander Rick Johnson was leading the construction of humanity's fourth clandestine colony. These worlds existed in star systems that Federation maps marked as uninhabitable or uninteresting. In reality, they were becoming the most advanced military production centers the galaxy had ever seen. Dr. Lisa Hayes had made breakthrough after breakthrough in her hidden laboratories. By combining Althari genetic manipulation with Kryn energy control, she had created organic computers that could think faster than any Zephyrian quantum system. By merging human engineering with alien materials science, she had developed armor that could adapt to any weapon. But Jake's peaceful afternoon in the council chamber was about to end. Supreme Commander, Vraktos turned his massive head toward Jake and spoke in a voice that carried across the entire chamber. Ambassador Morrison, the Vorthak Empire has been reviewing humanity's progress over the past 8 years. I hope our development has been satisfactory, Jake replied carefully. Satisfactory is not the word I would use, Vraktos said. Your species has been asking too many questions. You request access to technical databases that are far beyond your understanding. Your people travel to worlds where they have no business conducting research. And most concerning of all, your population growth suggests you are preparing for expansion beyond your authorized territory. Jake felt the attention of every alien in the chamber focus on him. Commander, I can assure you that humanity follows all Federation guidelines. We seek knowledge only to better serve our role in the galactic community. Your role, Vraktos said slowly, is to remain in your designated system and develop according to our guidance. Your role is not to conduct unauthorized surveys of abandoned star systems or to build facilities on worlds we have not approved. Jake's heart stopped. They knew about the hidden colonies. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Commander. Don't lie to me, human, Vraktos growled. The Vorthak have the best surveillance technology in the galaxy. We know about your secret bases. We know about your weapons research. And we know that your species has been preparing for military action against Federation members. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers as other aliens realized what was being discussed. Jake remained calm on the outside, but his mind was racing. How much did they really know? And more importantly, how much time did humanity have? Commander, I think there has been a misunderstanding, Jake began. The only misunderstanding, Vraktos interrupted, is humanity's belief that they could deceive the Vorthak Empire. Your species has 30 days to make a choice. You will shut down all unauthorized facilities, return to your home system, and submit to complete technological restriction. Your space travel will be limited to sublight speeds, and your weapons development will be monitored by Vorthak overseers. Jake stood up slowly. And if we refuse? Vraktos smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Then humanity will serve as an example to any future species that might consider betraying Federation trust. Your entire species will be exterminated and your worlds will be sterilized. We have done this 17 times before, and we will not hesitate to do it again. The chamber fell completely silent. Jake looked around at the faces of aliens who had worked with him for years. Some looked shocked, others seemed resigned, and a few appeared almost relieved that the truth was finally out in the open. 17 times? Jake asked quietly. Did you think you were the first junior species to grow too ambitious? Vraktos laughed. The Federation has maintained galactic peace for over 1,000 years by eliminating threats before they can spread. Your species shows promise, but you have become dangerous. That cannot be allowed. Jake sat back down and activated his tablet. To everyone watching, it looked like he was taking notes. In reality, he was sending a priority signal to Earth using the code phrase that would activate Protocol 7, humanity's emergency response plan. 30 days, Jake said calmly. That's a reasonable amount of time for such an important decision. May I communicate this offer to my government? Of course, Vraktos replied. Though I should mention that the Vorthak fleet is already moving into position around your solar system. Any attempt to resist or evacuate will be met with immediate destruction. Jake nodded as if this was perfectly normal. I understand, Commander. Humanity appreciates the Federation's clarity on this matter. As the council session ended and aliens began filing out of the chamber, Ambassador Zexathar approached Jake's seat. The blue-skinned diplomat who had first contacted Earth looked genuinely sad. I am sorry, Morrison. Your species seemed different from the others. More cooperative, more willing to accept guidance. What happened to make us seem threatening? Jake asked. Innovation, Zexathar replied. Every species that was eliminated had the same problem. They took our technologies and began combining them in ways we never intended. They started asking questions we didn't want answered, and eventually, they began developing capabilities that exceeded our own. So the Federation kills anyone who might become competition. The Federation maintains order, Zexathar corrected. 17 junior species thought they could challenge the established galactic hierarchy. All of them learned the same lesson your species is about to learn. Power belongs to those who have held it longest. Jake looked at the alien who had seemed so reasonable 8 years ago. And you're comfortable with genocide being the Federation's solution to innovation? I am comfortable with survival, Zexathar replied. The Vorthak are the Federation's primary military force. If they decide a species is dangerous, that species ceases to exist. It has worked for 1,000 years. It has worked so far, Jake corrected. As Jake walked back to his ship, he thought about the message he had sent to Earth. By now, Admiral Sam Mitchell would be activating defensive systems that the Federation couldn't imagine. Dr. Hayes would be deploying technologies that combined the best innovations of every alien species in ways that none of them had ever conceived. The Vorthak thought they were dealing with another primitive species that had gotten too ambitious. They had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the day they joined the Federation. Every diplomatic mission had been an intelligence-gathering operation. Every cultural exchange had been a technology theft. Every friendly conversation had been a strategic assessment. Jake reached his ship and immediately called for departure. As they lifted off from Nexus Prime, Communications Officer Kate Thompson looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving confirmation signals from all our hidden bases. Protocol 7 is fully activated. And our fleet status? All ships are ready, sir. We're not the primitive species they remember from 8 years ago. Jake settled into his command chair and watched the stars streak by as they entered hyperspace. In 30 days, the Vorthak would learn what happened when you threatened to exterminate the human species. It would be a lesson they would not survive to share with anyone else. Behind them, on Nexus Prime, Supreme Commander Vraktos was already composing his victory report. The human problem would be solved within a month, just like all the others. The Vorthak had never lost a war against a junior species, and they saw no reason to start now. That confidence would prove to be their final mistake. 28 days after the Vorthak ultimatum, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force, watching tactical displays that showed enemy fleet positions throughout human space. The Vorthak had moved faster than expected, positioning over 10,000 warships around Earth and humanity's official colonies. Status report, Jake ordered as he approached the main tactical station where Major Amy Carter was coordinating intelligence from across the galaxy. The Vorthak fleet is massive, Amy reported. They've brought everything. Heavy battle cruisers, carrier groups, planetary bombardment ships. Supreme Commander Vraktos is personally leading the operation from his flagship, a ship they call the Galaxy Crusher. Admiral Sam Mitchell, who had taken command of humanity's real military forces, pointed to a secondary display. But they don't know about our hidden fleets. As far as Vorthak intelligence shows, we have maybe 300 ships total. They think this will be over in hours. Jake studied the tactical information with satisfaction. The Vorthak had made the same mistake that every Federation species made. They assumed humans were still using the basic technology they had started with 8 years ago. Dr. Lisa Hayes joined them at the command station, carrying a tablet full of technical readouts. The new ships performed perfectly in final testing. Our hybrid technology is ready for combat deployment. Remind me what we're working with, Jake said. Every human ship now combines technologies from all 12 Federation species, Dr. Hayes explained. Althari bioadaptive hulls that can repair themselves and change configuration during battle. Kryn energy systems that are 3 times more efficient than anything the Vorthak have. Zephyrian quantum computers that can predict enemy movements before they happen. Sam Mitchell smiled grimly. And human engineering that ties it all together into something none of them have ever seen before. Communications Officer Kate Thompson looked up from her station. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthak flagship. Supreme Commander Vraktos wants to discuss our surrender terms. Put him through, Jake ordered. The main screen filled with the image of the massive reptilian commander. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of a ship that was probably larger than most human cities. Admiral Morrison, Vraktos said, I trust you have had enough time to consider our offer. The Vorthak Empire is prepared to be merciful if humanity surrenders immediately and completely. What exactly does merciful mean? Jake asked. Your species will be relocated to a single world under Vorthak supervision. Your population will be reduced to sustainable levels through controlled breeding. Your technology will be restricted to pre-spaceflight levels. In return, you will be allowed to continue existing. Amy made a disgusted sound that she quickly covered with a cough. Kate looked like she wanted to shoot the alien through the screen. But Jake kept his expression completely neutral. And if we refuse? Then every human in the galaxy will be dead within 48 hours, Vraktos replied casually. We will sterilize your worlds and erase all evidence that your species ever existed. It will be clean, efficient, and permanent, I see, Jake said. Commander, may I ask you a question? You may. In your 1,000 years of eliminating junior species, has any of them ever surprised you? Vraktos laughed, showing his sharp teeth. Surprise me how? They all follow the same pattern. First they beg, then they threaten, then they try to run. None of it matters. The Vorthak have never lost a war. Never, Jake asked. Never. We are the Federation's sword, Morrison. We have conquered more worlds than your species has probably discovered. Your primitive ships and basic weapons are nothing compared to Vorthak military might. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Well then, I suppose there's no point in further negotiation. You've made your position clear and we've made our decision. Excellent. I trust you will order your ships to stand down and prepare for boarding. Actually, Jake said with a smile, I was going to order them to attack. The transmission went silent for several seconds. Then Vraktos began laughing so hard that he had trouble speaking. Attack? You and what fleet, Morrison? We count fewer than 300 human ships in your entire space. My smallest battle group has more firepower than your entire military. You're probably right, Jake agreed. But we thought we'd give it a try anyway. After all, what's the worst that could happen? You're already planning to kill us all? Fractos stopped laughing. Very well. If you insist on dying as warriors rather than accepting mercy, the Vorthak will accommodate you. All ships begin the attack. Show these humans what real military power looks like. The transmission ended, leaving the human command center in tense silence. All ships report ready, Admiral, Sam Mitchell announced. Our hidden fleets are in position and awaiting orders. Jake took a deep breath. Signal all commanders. Operation Payback is now active. Let's show the galaxy what humans do to bullies. The battle began exactly as Vraktos expected. The small human fleet that had been visible to Vorthak sensors engaged the massive alien armada near Earth. The Vorthak ships opened fire with weapons that could crack planets, expecting to see the pathetic human vessels disintegrate immediately. Instead, they watched in shock as human ships moved like nothing they had ever seen. Captain Joey Barnes commanded the Earth vessel Retribution, which somehow dodged between massive energy beams while returning fire that punched through Vorthak shields as if they were made of paper. Impossible, Fractos snarled from his command chair. How are they moving so fast? His tactical officer was staring at his instruments with confusion. Sir, their ships appear to be changing shape during combat. And their weapons, they're using some kind of adaptive energy that adjusts itself to penetrate our defenses. Before Vraktos could respond, his flagship was shaken by impacts from weapons that shouldn't have been able to touch it. On his tactical display, he watched 12 of his heavy cruisers simply disappear as the human ship Retribution passed through their formation, like a knife through flesh. But the real shock came when Major Alex Turner activated humanity's ace in the hole. For the past 5 years, human hackers had been inside every Vorthak computer system, mapping their networks and planting dormant programs that were now coming to life. Sir, the Vorthak communications officer reported in panic. We're losing control of our own ships. Something is overriding our command systems. Vraktos watched in horror as half his fleet began targeting the other half. Ships that had served the Vorthak Empire for centuries were now following human orders, turning their weapons on their former allies. How is this possible? Vraktos roared. The answer came from Captain Lisa Morgan, whose ship had somehow appeared directly behind the Galaxy Crusher without being detected by any of its sensors. This is Captain Morgan of the human fleet. Her voice came through the Vorthak communication system. Commander Vraktos, you made several mistakes in your intelligence assessment of humanity. What mistakes? Vraktos demanded. First, you assumed we had 300 ships. Actually, we have over 2,000. You just couldn't see the ones we didn't want you to see. As if summoned by her words, human ships began appearing throughout the battle zone, emerging from stealth systems that combined technologies from 6 different Federation species. Second, you assumed our technology was still primitive. But for 8 years, we've been improving on everything the Federation showed us. Our ships aren't just faster and stronger than yours, they're smarter. Vraktos watched his tactical display show impossible things. Human ships were coordinating their attacks with precision that suggested a single controlling intelligence. They moved in patterns that anticipated Vorthak responses before those responses were even planned. And third, Captain Morgan continued, you assumed that humans fight the same way Vorthak do. You bring overwhelming force and expect your enemies to surrender or die. But humans have a different approach to warfare. What approach? Vraktos asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. We cheat, Morgan replied cheerfully. We've been inside your computer systems for years. We know every ship in your fleet, every weapon you carry, and every tactical doctrine you follow. This isn't a battle, Commander. It's an execution. The Vorthak fleet was falling apart. Ships that weren't being destroyed by human weapons were being turned against each other by human hackers. Commander after commander reported catastrophic system failures as their own technology was used against them. Colonel Michelle Davis, leading human ground forces, added her own message to the communications channel. Oh, and Commander, those planetary invasion forces you landed on our colonies, they're not having a good day either. Turns out that humans are pretty good at defending their homes. Vraktos realized that everything was lost. The mighty Vorthak war machine was being systematically destroyed by a species they had dismissed as primitive. This is impossible, he said again. No. Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system. This is what happens when you threaten to exterminate the human species. Did you really think we would just sit quietly and wait for you to kill us? As the Galaxy Crusher began losing power and atmosphere, Vraktos made one final attempt to salvage something from the disaster. Morrison, call off your attack. The Vorthak surrender. We can negotiate terms. 6 months after the destruction of the Vorthak fleet, Admiral Jake Morrison received an urgent communication from the last surviving Vorthak stronghold. The message was simple and desperate. Please, we surrender. We want to negotiate. Jake stood in his command center aboard the flagship New Terra, studying tactical displays that showed the final Vorthak system. After their devastating defeat in human space, the surviving Vorthak had retreated to their heavily fortified homeworld, hoping their defensive systems would be enough to protect them. They were wrong. Status of the Vorthak home system? Jake asked Captain Danny Williams, who had been leading the systematic hunt for surviving Vorthak forces across the galaxy. They have approximately 50 ships left, mostly damaged, Danny reported. Their homeworld has massive defensive platforms, but our intelligence suggests they're running low on power and ammunition. They've been cut off from all supply lines for months. Major Amy Carter looked up from her intelligence station. Sir, we're also detecting civilian populations on several planets in the system. Millions of non-combatant Vorthak, including their young. Jake studied the displays with the same calm expression he had maintained throughout the war. Any word from the other Federation species? They've all distanced themselves from the Vorthak, Amy replied. Ambassador Zexthar sent a message 3 days ago, officially expelling the Vorthak Empire from Federation membership. They're claiming they had no knowledge of the genocide program. Captain Lisa Morgan, who had become Jake's primary tactical advisor, shook her head. That's convenient. 17 species get eliminated over 1,000 years and nobody noticed. Fear makes people forget things, Jake observed. The other Federation species are terrified that we'll do to them what we did to the Vorthak. They want to pretend they were innocent bystanders. Dr. Lisa Hayes joined them at the command station, carrying reports from her research teams. Jake, we've completed our analysis of captured Vorthak technology. Their quantum dissolution weapons are the same ones used to erase the 17 previous species. We now have complete documentation of every genocide they committed. Jake felt cold anger settling in his chest. The Vorthak hadn't just threatened to kill humanity. They had actually succeeded in erasing 17 other species from existence. Billions of lives had been destroyed to maintain the Federation's version of galactic order. Are we receiving any communications from the Vorthak leadership? Jake asked. Communications Officer Kate Thompson nodded. Former Supreme Commander Gricknar has been sending surrender offers every few hours. He's promising full cooperation, war reparations, and complete submission to human authority. And what does he want in return? Mercy for the Vorthak species. He's offering to turn over all their military leaders for trial if we'll spare the civilian population. Jake was quiet for several minutes, considering options. Around him, his staff waited patiently for his decision. Finally, he spoke. Open a channel to the Vorthak homeworld. I'll speak to Gricknar personally. The main screen filled with the image of a Vorthak command center that looked nothing like the proud military facility Jake had seen months earlier. The walls showed battle damage. Several control stations were dark, and the few Vorthak officers visible looked exhausted and defeated. Former Supreme Commander Gricknar appeared smaller than Jake remembered. The massive reptilian scales were dull, and his movements suggested injury or illness. Admiral Morrison, Gricknar said, I am grateful that you agreed to communicate with us. What do you want, Commander? Jake asked directly. I want to arrange the surrender of all remaining Vorthak military forces. In exchange for the survival of our species, we offer complete submission to human authority. We will provide full documentation of our military capabilities, turn over all war criminals for judgment, and accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate for our leadership. Jake listened without showing any emotion. And you believe this would satisfy human justice? I hope it would be sufficient, Gricknar replied. The Vorthak Empire no longer exists. Our military is broken, our colonies have been destroyed, and our people are facing starvation. We cannot fight anymore. We can only ask for mercy. Mercy, Jake repeated slowly. Commander, do you remember what you said to me in the Federation Council chamber 6 months ago? Gricknar's eyes showed fear. Admiral, I was following orders from Supreme Commander Vraktos. The decision to threaten your species was not mine alone. That's not what I'm talking about, Jake said. You told me that the Vorthak had eliminated 17 species before humanity. You said it was clean, efficient, and permanent. Do you remember that? Yes, but did those 17 species ask for mercy when you erased them from the galaxy? Gricknar was silent for several seconds. Some of them did, yes. And what was your response? We proceeded with the elimination as ordered. Jake nodded. I see. So mercy is something the Vorthak ask for but don't give to others. Admiral Morrison, please understand that the situation has changed. The Vorthak Empire was following Federation policy for maintaining galactic order. We were not acting independently. The Federation policy of genocide? Jake asked. The Federation policy of preventing junior species from becoming threats to established order. Gricknar corrected desperately. Every member species supported this policy, even if they didn't participate directly in enforcement actions. Captain Morgan leaned over to Jake and whispered something in his ear. Jake nodded and addressed Gricknar again. Commander, I have a question about your enforcement actions. When you eliminated the previous 17 species, what happened to their homeworlds? They were sterilized to prevent any possibility of survival or recovery. Sterilized how? Gricknar looked uncomfortable. Quantum dissolution. Complete molecular breakdown of all matter on the target worlds. Nothing remained except empty space. Jake felt the anger of everyone in his command center. 17 species, billions of lives, entire worlds, all erased as if they had never existed. And you're asking humanity to show you the mercy that you never showed to anyone else, Jake said. Admiral, if you eliminate the Vorthak species, how will you be different from what we were? Gricknar asked desperately. Jake considered the question seriously. The difference, Commander, is that those 17 species never threatened to commit genocide against anyone. They were eliminated simply for becoming too advanced and too independent. The Vorthak, on the other hand, have actually committed genocide 17 times. You're not innocent victims, you're war criminals. But our civilians, our young ones, they had no part in military decisions. Gricknar pleaded. Neither did the billions of civilians on the worlds you sterilized, Jake replied. President Nathan Brooks's face appeared on a secondary screen. He had been monitoring the conversation from Earth. Admiral Morrison, you have authorization to proceed with erasure protocol. Jake looked at his staff. Every face showed the same grim determination. Dr. Hayes had developed the technology. Captain Williams had positioned the ships. Major Carter had confirmed the target data. All that remained was the final decision. Commander Gricknar, Jake said, the human species has made its decision regarding the Vorthak Empire. Admiral, please. Your species spent 1,000 years erasing others from the galaxy. You used the threat of total extinction to maintain your version of order. You told us that our extermination would be clean, efficient, and permanent. Jake paused, looking directly into the alien's terrified eyes. Today, humanity returns that promise. The Vorthak species has been judged guilty of 17 counts of genocide. The sentence is complete erasure from galactic history. Morrison, you can't activate erasure protocol, Jake ordered. Commander Paul Roberts, leading the final assault fleet, activated weapons that the Vorthak had never seen before. Human technology had improved on their own quantum dissolution systems, creating something that was indeed clean, efficient, and permanent. The Vorthak homeworld and every ship in the system simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris, no evidence that anything had ever been there. In less than 60 seconds, the Vorthak species was completely erased from the galaxy. Jake turned to address his staff. Send a message to the Galactic Federation Council. Tell them that humanity requests a meeting to discuss new policies for galactic order. What should we tell them about the Vorthak? Amy asked. Tell them that the Vorthak are no longer available for comment, Jake replied. They seem to have disappeared from the galaxy. These things happen sometimes. As the human fleet prepared to return to Federation space, Dr. Hayes approached Jake with a final report. Jake, we've confirmed the complete success of erasure protocol. No trace of Vorthak civilization remains anywhere in the galaxy. Their ships, their colonies, their homeworld, everything is gone. Good, Jake said simply. The other Federation species are requesting emergency meetings. They want to discuss humanity's new status in the galactic community. Jake smiled for the first time in months. I'm sure they do. After all, we're no longer a junior species that needs protection and guidance. 3 days later, Jake stood once again in the Federation Council chamber on Nexus Prime. But this time, the seating arrangement was very different. The human delegation now occupied the position of authority that had once belonged to the Vorthak.